American architect Frank Lloyd Wright was born on June 8, 1867, in Richland Center, Wisconsin. Growing up, Frank lived a rough childhood. His family would often move from place to place. His family lived in Rhode Island, Massachusetts, and Iowa before finally settling in Madison, Wisconsin at the age of 12. He loved the outdoors and loved the different types of landscapes. He graduated at a public high school before enrolling in the University of Wisconsin at Madison, in which he would study civil engineering. While at the University of Wisconsin, he would run into architect Joseph Silsbee. He would briefly work for Silsbee at the university before the experience convinced him to drop out of college and pursue his dream of becoming an architect. Silsbee offered him a job to work for him in Chicago, which he accepted. After working for several years, he would design many residences in Illinois. He would eventually create many styles of architecture. This was just the beginning of the legacy of Frank Lloyd Wright. Frank Lloyd Wright took a stand for his ideas and created many styles of architecture that he believed were needed in order to be successful. Although Frank Lloyd Wright never graduated college, he would work with many other architects, including Louis Sullivan. He was known for the creation of many of the great skyscrapers, including Wainwright Building and the Prudential Building. Eventually, Frank Lloyd Wright would step aside and would pursue his goal of creating a true American style of architecture. That style of architecture that Frank Lloyd Wright chose to create was the Prairie style. The Prairie style usually contains horizontal lines and flat roofs. The house had a rugged appearance and had a solid construction. This structure, called Falling Water, was one of the buildings he created. It is so memorable because it was built above a waterfall. He designed it for his client, the Kaufman family, which then it instantly became famous and became one of his most significant pieces of work. The Johnson Wax headquarters was another iconic design by Wright during his lifetime. It was very famous for its tree-like lily pad columns that are in place throughout the building. Another one of his significant designs was the Bach House. This was one of his significant prairie houses that he designed in the Chicago metropolitan area. This house was built in 1959 for an admirer of his work, Emil Bach. Frank Lloyd Wright had a huge impact on American architecture because of his style that he has discovered and all of the things he has added or decided to add to buildings that all homes have today. The Frederick C. Robbie House, which was designed by Frank Lloyd Wright, is a perfect example of this. This house goes along the Prairie style. The Prairie style affected American architecture as it was a completely new style. Frank Lloyd Wright died on April 9, 1959 at age 91. He was considered to be the best American architect of all time and one of the best in the whole world. He has designed 500 buildings in his lifetime. Also, almost 300 of those were designed in the last 10 years of his life. His surge of creativity after 2 decades of frustration was one of the most dramatic resurrections in American art history, made more impressive by the fact that Wright was 70 years old in 1937. Once said Robert Twombly, which really shows what kind of an impact he had made on architecture today all around the world. Architecture that belonged where you see it standing and is a grace to the landscape instead of a disgrace. Although failing many times in his career, Frank Lloyd Wright proved that the continuous effort would pay off at the end.